Welcome back to KBC Lunchtime News. We are now switching gears to matters business, and as I had alluded to earlier, is that we are going to be discussing matters cassava. Question is, when is the last time that you had a taste of cassava? All right, as you ponder about that questions, we are joined by Alan Mbole. Alan Mbole is the program manager at Cassava Project Self-Help Africa. Karibu sana.
Thank you.
And first things first, why is it that this is the second most important crop, root crop after Irish potatoes? But when you mention cassava, you not find it mostly in towns, mostly it's consumed in the rural areas. Maybe you can begin there.
Thank you so much. Thank you for this opportunity. And I work for Self-Help Africa as a program manager covering 6 counties in Kenya. And what I can say is that in the past, even including myself, we grew, we are here today because of cassava. But over time, because of the changing trends in climate change, and also introduction of other new varieties of food crops, cassava has eventually been phasing off. But in the last 1 decade, what we've been doing at Self-Help Africa, that we have been now engaging farmers with other government agencies, private sector, in revamping this value chain sector. And if you can remember very well, with the recent Ukraine-Russia war, there's been quite over-reliance on maize. And you can remember actually it's a bit of people were depending so much on maize. And you could recall also at the same time that availability of food at the household table in a rural household has become a challenge. So at Self-Help Africa, we are literally working with farmers to ensure that they have food on the table. And one of the key major issues we are trying to push forward around the cassava value chain sector is that it's a climate smart crop. And I think farmers are able to adopt it in the rural households for the sake of consumption at the household level as well as for commercial purposes. Yeah,
and tell us more about your project, Cassava Project Self-Help Africa. What exactly are you doing there to ensure that, and you've more or less focused on the cassava alone? Why is that?
Thank you so much. As I've mentioned, it's a climate smart crop. And what we are currently doing at Self-Help Africa, we are looking at cassava productivity at the local level with the farmers. As basically like focusing on the entire value chain, from the farm to the table. And for us to make our interventions more, to play a critical role in the economy, we are working with farmers to ensure that productivity is going to be enhanced at the household level with the help of the Minister of Agriculture. We are also working with Calro, Kefis in production of high-yielding varieties, seed system for cassava. That is one of the key components we are driving forward. Number 2, we are also working with farmers to make them to enable them to be more enterprising in the cassava value chain sector. We have upcoming opportunities, especially for industrial starch, as well as currently this year we are trying to push forward a flour blending regulations, which is going to inform farmers to plant more cassava. And with the flour blending regulations, it means at least in every flour that is being produced at the national level, especially maize flour, you're going to have at least 10% cassava flour blend in it.
More or less like fortifying it.
Exactly. So in the coming, I think currently we are at the final stages at the national level. I think it's now moving to the National Assembly for enaction. And in the coming years from next year, we might be having fortified maize flour that has been blended with cassava.
It's a good you've observed the conflict between Russia and Ukraine, which has quite dented food security in Africa and more specifically in Kenya.
Yes.
And it's a very important food crop, talking about drought resistance.
Yes.
But unfortunately, people in Kenya have not quite embraced cassava. What are some of the steps that you're ensuring that Kenyans know about the cassava, they have embraced cassava, and they can do more or less what you're talking about, even fortifying flour with cassava?
So what we are doing currently, our focus is in the high-yielding cassava growing zones. We are focusing in the western part of Kenya, and the coastal areas, that is Kilifi County. And what we are doing basically is we are now introducing the new varieties that are drought resistant, less susceptible to diseases, and more high yielding. So what we are doing is basically we're working with the Department of Agriculture, Ministry of Agriculture, KALRO, to ensure that these varieties are going to reach to farmers, and the uptake of the same is going to be observed. We are doing a lot of awareness creation, testing these technologies to the farmers at the local level, which we are quite sure, and if not even quite sure, they're actually being adopted at the local level with the new varieties, new technologies at the farm level, new farming technologies. They're being observed. Farmers are taking them up, and the trend is increasing. And I can say that in the recent past, in the last 1 year, the current cassava production is around 800,000 metric tons. And the current market demand is around 3 million metric tons. So you are seeing that gap. So I think in the next 1 year or so, with what we are doing currently, introduction of new seed varieties, we're also supporting the policy work at the national level, using other various technologies. For example, for pest and disease surveillance, we are having an app called Nuru app, working with the other value chain actors within the same space. And at least with time, we're going to see increased adoption of cassava.
Talking of increased production of cassava in the country, what is the current capacity as we stand? Because you've talked about in the last 10 years, there have been quite tremendous improvement in cassava production in the country. Yeah.
So can you repeat the question?
The capacity that we have in the country. And in the last 10 years, what have you noticed? Because you've mentioned in the last decade, we've had some tremendous improvement in the production in the country.
Currently, what I can say currently, the change that we are able to observe is the adoption of the new seed varieties and the willingness of the government, the good political goodwill to support the existing policies like the flower blending regulations, as well as the root and tuber strategy development strategies at the local and at the national level. So what we've been able to do at the national level, we pushed for the root and tuber crop strategy development strategy. We pushed it, and it was enacted at the national level. Then now we are now domesticating the same at the local level. What does it mean? With the root and tuber strategy development strategy, it essentially outlines how best can cassava be improved at the local level, and how best can we farmers tap into the same in building the enterprises at the local level, so that we can have increased household income at the local level.
Indeed. And looking at cassava, how can we rope in the private sector? Because if we rope them in, I'm quite sure we're going to have a very robust market. Yes. Because looking at cassava, when I began, I said that mostly it's grown and consumed in the rural areas. Yes. How can we rope in the private sector?
I totally agree with you. Currently, we are actually depending on the private sector, because with the private sector, right from the seed input suppliers, coming all the way to machine fabricators, those who are in the agro-processing sector, we are basically relying on them, because that's where farmers are going to get their market for their increased production of cassava. So if you're able to build capacity, and I can say what we are currently doing is that we're also engaging the KIRDI on various incubation practices. We are working with the private sector, a few MSMEs with KIRDI, to see how best they can improve their value-added products. So if they are able to be build capacity through the help of KIRDI, as well as NITA in equipment fabrication, and other development partners working with the private sector, we are trying to build their capacity, and we are totally sure that the market for the farmers is going to be guaranteed. Again, the aspect of financing, we are living in tough economic times, and much of these companies are really struggling. So the aspects of access to finance is very critical. So at Self-Help Africa, we are working with microfinance institutions and even banks, and link them to MSMEs, so that they're able to access to credit facilities. so that they can ensure that their processing capacity is going to increase. Yes.
And what are some of the challenges that you have seen? Because me growing up in the rural areas, we had so many cassava.
Yes.
And as we speak now, it's more or less like a lot of people have abandoned this crop because of the diseases that are there, and some people are looking at a product that can boost their income as opposed to more or less improving the food security. What are some of the challenges that you've noticed in cassava farming in this region?
In these regions, farmers are still using the traditional varieties. So the production is very low. As opposed to what we are currently doing now, we are now pushing for the improved varieties. We are working with the CALRO, with the International Institute of Tropical Agriculture. We are also working with another organization called MEDA. We are all in the same space. We are trying to ensure that we are developing high quality seeds using semi-autotrophic hydroponics technology, single node cutting technologies, single node cutting, double node cutting, and the varieties are going to be adopted. And I think that is what we can do. And
you've talked about hybrid seeds. I can tell you for free that 2 weeks ago I was at home and I had some cassavas, but half of them had already been infected by I think it's a fungi or a bacteria.
Yes.
And you've mentioned hybrid seeds. Tell us more about these seeds and where somebody can find them, and especially farmers in the rural areas.
Okay, thank you so much. Currently, what we are doing currently is the current technologies we are trying to push, like the semi-autotrophic hydroponics technology. This technology is for the ITA, and ITA has been working in Nigeria for so many years. So it's basically like they're now cleaning the seed to have a more clean seed, high-yielding variety seed that is also short-maturing seed varieties. So this technology is like the semi-autotrophic hydroponic technology. We already have existing seed varieties with CALRO. So what we are doing basically is we are working with CALRO and ITA. Now, ITA is building capacity of CALRO in the sector of seed system development. Now, through CALRO, we have more of like an implementation architecture, whereby with CALRO, the seed is being produced at CALRO and propagated at CALRO. Then this seed is now linked to farmers. So we have some farmers where we are doing a bit of seed multiplication. And what we are currently doing is that through CALRO, this seeds are able to be shared through seed entrepreneurs at the local level. Then from there, there's quite a lot of awareness about the availability of the existing new varieties of seed.
Talking of awareness,
yes,
you are organizing a Cassava Expo. Tell us about that as we wrap up.
So the Cassava National Conference Expo is basically where we are bringing on board the farmers, the input suppliers, equipment fabricators. We're also talking about bringing in policymakers, government agencies, the private sector, just to come on board and we just look at the nitty-gritties, the problems, the solutions that currently exist within the cassava solution sector. We are hoping this particular platform, all the value chain actors are going to benefit. They are going to unlearn and learn new technologies in that particular forum.
Yeah, and I'm quite sure a lot of farmers are watching, so tell them where, the when, and when will it be?
So thank you so much. This event is at Safari Park Hotel, and from tomorrow, 24th to 26th, and the registration is still ongoing, and we're welcoming farmers to come on board so that they can come in and learn more about cassava value chain.
And how can you change the attitude of Kenyans? You know, as I've said, cassava mostly is consumed in the rural areas. How do we change so that, because if it's being sold quite in big towns, this is a big market, and especially in big towns, big market. How could you change the attitude?
Now, the attitude is going to be seen with the current value-added products that are being produced by farmers and the MSMEs. So even the farmers you're working with, they're producing even cassava flour. They're producing even cassava chips. So with these products, if they're going to get a bit of certificate, they're going to be certified by KBC. Most of the population around major towns will be able to access these particular products. So the products are already in the market. And I'm just telling the Kenyans to look at the most of these shelves. We have cassava products.
And cassava should be actually adding on the food security, especially having challenges that we cannot do anything about, and especially in the Russia-Ukraine war.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Alan Mbole. Alan Mbole is the program manager at Cassava Project Self-Help Africa there, and they are holding an expo beginning tomorrow at the Safari Park Hotel. If you're interested in cassava farming and knowing about the value addition and challenges that are there, varieties that are there as well, make a date with them for more. Thank you so much.
Thank you.